Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. Is that it? So if everybody will stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You have roll call?
Yes. Mr. Sims.
Here.
Ms. Webster.
Here.
Ms. White.
Here.
Mr. Renzi.
Here.
And Mr. Agadello.
Here.
Thank you.
Awesome. We have no announcements tonight, so we'll move right on to the agenda modifications. Do we have any agenda modifications? No? Cool. Approval of the August 20th meeting minutes? Did everybody review them?
Yes.
Somebody want to make a motion to approve these?
I motion to approve.
I second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Unfinished business. The committee member discussion on park improvements for the upcoming year.
Yes, Chair, I just want to update everyone and I continue to keep it on the agenda as we continue to go through. As a reminder to, have a discussion if anyone has any suggestions for park improvements. We're starting to roll into, as of October 1st, will be our fiscal year 19-20 budget cycle, so we will have a fresh $20,000 that we can utilize for park improvements. This $20,000 is allocated out of the Recreation Impact Fee Fund. At the last meeting, I gave you all an update that we had used roughly $13,000 of it this past year. It was utilized for baseball scoreboards and football scoreboards. And so just going into this year, just keep that in mind that anything that comes up as you're around in the parks that need to be taken care of pretty quickly that isn't budgeted, we do have the $20,000. And one thing just to note that $20,000 is allocated $5,000 to each zone. However, if it is a community park, we can take money out of the other zones to assist with that park. But like I said, it's just a reminder, and if anyone has anything to discuss, we're starting to go into, as of October 1st, we do have a fresh $20,000.
Okay.
And then that $5,000, if it's not used for the year for the zone, it's kept in Parks and Rec?
Yes, so any unused funds out of that $20,000 does just roll right back into the Recreation Impact Fee account. So this past year, all the purchases, the $13,000, was in a community park, Barber Street. So each fund got hit equally throughout that. So then at the end of the year, the remaining fund balances in each zone goes back into those zones.
Okay, so I guess, I don't know if I can bring it up now, but so if there's a park that's one of my parks and there are some things that I'd like to see, should I bring that up later for member comments?
You can bring it up now or you can bring it up during member comments. That's
I'll do it in member comments then.
Hey, Mr. Benton, so those improvements for the park, they have to be, it could be, because most improvements are addition to things that are not already there, or I know like if something was a safety factor, you can go ahead and take care of that, but when you say improvements, it has to be something that's not already there.
Yes, it can. Well, it can already be there, but it has to be an improvement. For instance, the scoreboards were already there, but the improvement was the LED scoreboards and some additional features. So anytime we utilize recreation impact fees, it has to be used for improvements. It can't be used for maintenance cost or items such as that, that we have in our general operating account. So it just has to be an improvement to the facility in order to allocate it from recreation impact fees.
Good. Thank you.
Brian?
Yes, sir.
On the stormwater park, simple fix, the trail going in from Engler, could it be cut back somewhat to make it more accessible?
Are you referencing, so there's two parking lots on Engler. There's a primary parking lot.
The smaller lot.
Okay, so the secondary lot? Sorry. I'll have staff look into that and see exactly, what's going on with the walking trail that goes through there. Once you get in on that secondary lot, you have the one entryway, but then it does branch off to multiple different trails in order to access it. That's the parking lot you're talking about,
Yeah,
the secondary
in other
lot?
words, yeah, if you park the car in the smaller lot, you get out and you want to walk in, that first few feet walking in, it's almost indistinguishable as a trail.
Yes, so I'll have staff look at it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we don't have anybody here from the public. So I guess we're going to forego public input.
Okay.
New business, we have staff matters. Mr. Benton?
Yes, I'll provide updates to the current projects we have going on and also the projects that were brought before you at previous meetings that we have completed, just to kind of keep you all updated on where we currently are with all of our projects throughout the department. The football scoreboard was received and installed shortly after Hurricane Dorian. That was put in place and installed prior to their first home football games, which was kind of a requirement we had with the company we went with, to ensure it is a requirement for the football program to have a running game clock. So that was installed, everything, great feedback from it, from the Sharks program and from parents and everyone in the general public that assisted with that, and was able to have a functioning scoreboard, and it looked really nice. Yacht Club, the seawall and sidewalk repair project is complete in the area that we had worked on this past year. There was a delay for some time period, and we had some construction fencing up, but that project is now complete. There is a couple other areas that the seawall needs to be fixed. There's some water intrusion coming in, but that will continue to happen over the course of a year, 2 years, as we have time to get on those projects and really kind of dig into what's happening underneath the sidewalks. Friendship Park, the light lenses were replaced, and this project was finalized this past week. The lift is still sitting out there, but they did finalize that this past week. And I just want to thank Mr. Renzi for bringing that to our attention, as we had an issue a few months ago with some of the lenses that were flying off due to high winds. So we did go in and replace all the lens with new fixtures and everything. Dog park, we're installing 2 shade structures at the dog park. That was budgeted for this past fiscal year. It is a CIP project, so it can continue to roll over. So we have chosen a company. We're going to go with the company Carolina Carports. They're going to provide shade structures. One of them will be located inside the small dog area, and the other one will be located inside of the large dog area. We are going to concrete under both of them, so that we just didn't, we could do rocks, or we could have just left it grass, but we felt like it would just be worn out and destroyed, and dogs and even some of the visitors within the park would pick up the rocks and they'd get all over the place mowing. So we made the decision to concrete underneath. I anticipate concrete to happen within the next couple weeks. Once we do it, it'll kind of be a quick phase. We will clear the grass, we'll come in, the concrete company will come in, they'll form it, and they'll pour it the next day. So I do anticipate about a 3-day closure coming up at the dog park. We will notice it. We'll give at least 2 weeks notice on our social media sites, on our website, and we'll post signage at the park. But just in case you hear anything, we will be having about a 3-day closure for the concrete installation, and then it will be 1 to 2 day closure once we get the structures installed. That'll take 1 to 2 days when that happens. Riverview Park Master Plan. We have received the conceptual master plan and reviewed it amongst staff and included some of our stakeholders that have events down at the riverfront. And so after that meeting, the consultant's going to do some cost estimates and make a few revisions to the conceptual plan before it is presented to you all, because it was a rough draft of a conceptual plan that was prepared really with some input, but not a lot of input from staff. We wanted the consultant to come down, see what we had as far as tree protection, see how we could better preserve the park, but then there's also been kind of working into more of a master plan to incorporate the splash pad, Veterans Memorial, the Twin Piers area. So I think once we get the revised back and once I present it to you all, you'll be, impressed with what the consultant has really looked at. They were kind of a third party that came down and they've seen some of our events that take place there, and they provided a layout for events, but then also future projects for the park. Park signage, I know we've discussed this, and at the last meeting, I gave you all a printout of what exactly the future signage is going to look like. If anyone who wasn't at the last meeting wants a copy, I can get you a copy after the meeting. But that plan, we've received a design intent document. It's going to be finalized this week, and it will be going out to bid next week. Our plan is to have a 3-year program. So we'll identify what parks come first and how we go down the list. Basically, the parks that come first will be either parks that do not have any signage currently or parks that need signage replacement. And so that's a plan that I'm going through all of our parks and justifying and seeing exactly what parks need to be done in year 1, year 2, and then year 3. And our goal at the end is to have similar branding across our park signage going forward and to address some current concerns with signage that is currently parallel to the roadway as opposed to perpendicular to the roadway, and being able just to provide better signage within those parks. Yes, ma'am.
New expenditure?
It is allocated in Rec Impact Fund. There was $100,000 this past year, and then going forward in the next 3 years, we have currently allocated $25,000 each year. So the $25,000 is allocated for fiscal year 19 and 20 in the CIP to come out of Rec Impact Fund. However, future would be at the council would have to approve as we continue to go forward in year 2 and year 3. But this year's money will roll over within this project, so we will have roughly $80,000 to $100,000 after the consultant cost going forward for next year to start the sign replacement. And then our last item on our staff matters is just upcoming projects and potential timelines. I know most of you have either been in attendance or you've watched the meetings online, and you saw the budget presentation regarding our CIP projects. So I just want to make you all aware of a few projects outlined for this coming fiscal year. These projects include moving forward with the phase 2 of the pickleball project, which will include pickleball lighting. That was something that was not allocated in the original budget, but we did go ahead and push forward to utilize. I think we added additional $140,000 this coming fiscal year to include the lighting to take place at that facility. So that will be going out to bid within the next, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks. We'll put that out to bid, and it should be coming on board shortly. The courts will probably open up, and then we'll have the lighting installed pretty quickly after that. I wouldn't say it would take us too long with that. Resurfacing Friendship tennis courts, playground upgrades to include all-inclusive components, football bleacher purchases, baseball, softball fence replacement, baseball, softball dugout renovations. If you all have any questions on these specific projects as we're going into this next fiscal year, feel free you can ask me now, you can ask me later, but I will provide updates as we progress throughout the year. Similar to how I've done this past year, at every meeting I'll give you updates on the projects that are taking place and let you all know where we're currently at with those projects.
I did go by pickleball today just to see where they're at. So it looks like they are clearing and they're getting surfacing in. So have we heard anything else about a timeline for them?
Yes, so the pickleball project, we ran into a little bit of an issue once we got around the hurricane. They pulled their guys out. They had to pull staff out of here, and then we had an issue with some of the density testing that was taking place on the site. That's all been resolved as of now. We're moving forward with the construction. It did slow us down about 3 to 4 weeks. So currently, I don't want to throw dates out there because I'm not to say we won't have any more issues, but everything does seem to be on a pretty good timeline moving forward with getting this thing rolling and really starting to advance over the coming weeks. You'll start to see the lime rock, it's there. They'll start to bring in some more to get the lime rock base. Once they get the base down, then they can do all the testing, and then you'll start to see asphalt pouring, and then they can do fencing, concrete work. The restroom facility will all come on board within the next 4 weeks or so. So I would say we're 2 to 3 months away from this really being finalized at this time. Any questions on any of those projects or anything we have upcoming that was just discussed under staff matters?
Are you going to talk about the board opening?
I'm sorry?
There's a board opening?
Okay, yep, so I can move on to board opening. We do currently have one alternate position that is currently available on the board, so I'll mention it until it's filled, but, you know, if anyone's interested, they can come here to City Hall, fill out the application, and go through that process to become an alternate member. The position is an alternate. It is online, yes, on the clerk, through the clerk. And then last item, item C, Halloween event judges. Any committee members that are interested in judging the Halloween costume contest, the event will take place at the Twin Piers on Saturday, August 26th from 10 a.m. to noon. The event will include music, hay rides, dancing, and fun, and we will provide prizes for the best costumes in each of the 5 age groups.
October 26th?
Yes, ma'am, October 26th.
And I'd like to volunteer. I'm not sure who in your office is going to be putting a lot of this together, but if they need help, they can contact me. I think I helped last year with candy and prizes and things, so.
Okay.
And all of us would look really great there in costumes. Don't you think, Dante?
Yes, I could go as the ogre.
I'm disappointed.
It is very fun.
It is fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Where is that being held?
Right at the park down by the river.
Yeah, so Riverview Park, the grass lot just across Indian River Drive, we call it the Twin Piers with the 2 piers that are there.
And we're very organized because we have a checklist now, and we have the group ages, and we're getting really good at it.
Yeah, it'll
And
be fun.
it's a lot of fun.
10 to 12.
Yep.
October 26th.
So when do you want us to let you know for
Yeah, so if you
sure?
just let me know within, within the next 2 weeks or so.
Maybe send an email out to us.
I will. I'll send an
Okay.
email out, and if you could just respond, or, I'll also place some phone calls, and that way, if you all aren't interested, or if we don't fill enough spots, then I can find additional people to do it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
How many judges do you need, Brian?
3 to 4 is a
4's
pretty good
good.
number.
3 of us, that's
It's fun.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be able to make it this time.
I think the newest member, it's required.
There you go. It's a lot of fun.
It is.
It is fun.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's it, Mr. Benton. All right, so moving on to board or committee member matters. Why don't we start with Mr. Renzi?
Excuse me?
As the committee member matters, do you have anything?
No.
Ms. White?
Yes. So now we're not charging for the skate park as of now, right? It's free?
So the kind of turnover happens this coming Sunday.
Okay. Are we going to advertise that like in front of the park or on the signage out there for a while?
So we have post signage within the park currently on the door and the windows, so that anybody that's coming in and utilizing the park knows that it's free of charge. We're going to do social media posting this week to get the word out, and we can look at putting it. I think the marquee over by the baseball facility. That marquee. The only problem is parallel to the road, and it's really hard for people to read it. But we can also put some signage over by the football facility.
And I would say maybe the schools too. I don't know if you can throw some flyers out to elementary, junior high, and high school. They could just put it in as information.
Okay, yeah, we can look into that. We do electronic flyers through the schools for our special events, so we can look at doing an electronic flyer for that as well.
Okay. Garden Park is one of my parks, and going through there, the park needs some freshening up or something. I'm not quite sure. First, I have to ask, I know there's no sprinkling system in there, right?
There is irrigation there.
Okay, so that's where all the gold coloring is coming on the side of the trees and the benches that are there. So that needs to really, those little cement benches need to be cleaned up because they really are dirty and they're covered. If they can get rid of some of the gold, I know it's like overspray on it looks like a cover, maybe for a pump or something in the park. It just needs some cleaning. The walkway has some weeds growing on it. I don't know if we could use money. We can't use money out of Parks and Rec to do a pathway to freshen that up a little bit.
Yeah, we can't really use rec impact fees for that, but
Okay.
that's something we can look into. Are you speaking to just do a pathway through the front of the park or all the way around the whole?
Well, the very first part from the parking lot going in, there's weeds growing up through some of it, so I don't, maybe it just needs weed killer, something to, but the pathway just needs a little freshening up. And the other thing is, there are some trees in there, and maybe it's bad soil or it's not the right type of trees, and I think people through the years have done memorials where they planted a tree and they have little name tags there. There are some trees there that I know have been a long time there, and they're maybe 5 feet tall, and they're very weak and bare looking. I think some of those trees should be thinned out of there. I mean, I hate that it's a memorial to somebody, but they are in really bad condition. Some of the palms need to be cleaned up in there. And maybe there's some way, and I don't mind helping with that, but and if we put a little number on a tree and then take the name and make a little plaque with the number next to the person's name instead of having little names all over the trees, because it just doesn't look very good that way. But it does need some freshening up. But it sounds like, and this is the other thing. Do we have monies, or do we have some type of a timeline that we address all the different parks and tree maintenance? Do we have something like that? I don't think we've ever had it before, where we go in and look at a park and take out trees, add trees, and then go to another park and just focus on different parks, looking at what they need in tree maintenance.
So that's something that we can start to look at and go through the tree maintenance. One of the things within this Riverview Park Master Plan is we're going to get kind of a plan that we can utilize throughout all of our parks. To be honest, some of it's not really going to apply because that is a premier park, but I think we can take some of the ideas and concepts that we get from this tree plan from our consultant and start to implement it throughout our parks. Some of the things we can do mulching, we can do plantings around the trees to prevent the mowers from getting closer to them or the weed eaters. So there are some things that we can start to implement throughout. If you all want me to, go back and look into it and see if we can't start to designate specific parks to go through and do a tree study, or, just a report to see trees that we possibly need to remove, need to replace. I don't want to go in and start pulling out a bunch of trees and then we just don't have any trees.
Right.
So we'd have to also have a succession plan and what we're going to replace those trees with. And realize that once we pull out some of these trees, it's going to take a couple years for us to get the canopy back and be able to really, get mature trees put back in there. So those are all things that we can look at. In regards to the memorial trees, that's one thing that, we're kind of getting away from within the city because it does put some responsibility. I've got to go back and look at the agreements that were made, but it is kind of hard to pull out a tree, even if it is struggling a little bit or it's something that needs to be replaced when someone has memorialized that tree. So those are things that we need to look at and we need to consider from a departmental standpoint. But going forward, our plan is to not really offer memorial trees going forward in the future.
Is a tree person that can look at it and say it needs this and this, we need to fertilize it with that, or do we just maintain a tree and trim it and that's it?
Yeah, so we do have Kim, who's our environmental technician within the community development department. She's very knowledgeable in that stuff. I can get with her and see if she has some time. We can go around and start to look at some of these parks and look at the trees. I don't know how detailed she gets with that plan or how that goes about, so I'll just have to have that discussion with her.
Okay, because that would be a park I'd like to start with. It just needs some life put back in it.
Isn't that the garden
Garden
club's
club park.
responsibility?
Well, there is really, I don't think, a garden club anymore. It was a long time ago.
But that was before.
Yeah, and they used to maintain it. There was actually like a club, and most of those are older people, and I don't think even the club's around anymore. It might be. I haven't in the last few years heard of them getting together, and I would think if they were, they would be doing something to uplift that park, because it needs some maintenance.
But that would have been where the memorials came in, right?
Yeah, and it has some plaques there that says Garden Club, a few things, and it's cute. I mean, it's got a nice gazebo there. Freshen it up, maybe we could use some picnic tables. I wouldn't mind meeting with somebody if you need somebody to go and give some input to the park. I would volunteer to do that, but something to get people to come in there and use it instead of just driving by. There was one thing. I think that was it mainly. Oh, when I was gone this summer in Alaska, and they've been doing this for a few years, and I might research this and bring it back to the city. I don't know if we've ever been approached or have heard about the Senior Olympics. And Senior Olympics is a big thing. They had it in Fairbanks when I was there, and they've been doing it for a few years. It pulls in hundreds of seniors. They have all kinds of things. This would be great for Sebastian. They do pickleball. They do, I don't know, horseshoes. They do frisbee. They do running. There's all kinds of activities at seniors, and they actually travel to go to those places. I mean, we're talking hundreds of people. It's like a week-long event. And I've got some contacts for that, but I'm just wondering, as in a winter activity, we have enough seniors here, that might be something that would be, because we've got the parks, we've got the recreation areas, it would be kind of a nice plus for Sebastian to maybe pull in something like that. So I'm going to do some research and I'll get back to you on that. Okay. I don't know, maybe they're doing it already in Fort Pierce or whatever, but I haven't heard about it here. But it's up, and you don't have to be, I think it's like 55 older, and there are some really older people, and it's a real nice way for them to get together and do activities, and it's a big event. So I'll check into that.
That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun.
Is that it, Joanne?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Okay. I'd like to say, I had a chance to go out there a couple of weeks ago, and I saw the scoreboard I saw the old scoreboard was being removed at the football field, and then I had a chance to be out there while the games took place a couple weeks ago, and they will be back there this weekend. So the scoreboard, when I was out there, it was a big difference from the old scoreboard, and the illumination was great and everything. And so it was and then it ended up being the same colors as the Sharks too, so it was pretty nice as far as that for the green. So that was a good job with that. And then the park shaded areas, would they be the same size? I know like the small dog area is smaller than the larger area, so both areas will have the same size shaded area, or would the larger park area be a little bit larger than the smaller area for the smaller dogs?
Yeah, so the width of the shade structures will be the same. It's 18 feet. The length will be the difference. Once you get over on the small dog area, we just didn't have the length area. So the small dog shelter will be 18 by 21 feet. Okay. And the large dog will be 18 by 31 feet.
Nice. Which makes sense because the large area is a little bit larger than the actual smaller area. So I had a chance to go out there a couple of weeks ago. It's pretty, with all the improvements, everything looks real nice out there. Looks real nice. So it was an added thing. Also, when Joanne mentioned the skate park advertisement, so is it already on the web? Because I have not had a chance to look at the city website. So is it advertised on that?
So they closed the new hours and everything have not been advertised on the website yet. Okay. We're finalized. I was working today to finalize exactly what the rules and the statute that were required to have the verbiage on that. I finalized that shortly before this meeting. So our social media posting and the website and all that should happen tomorrow. I'm not going to do the social media posting until we get it on our website, because I'm going to reference them back to the website in regards to any rules or any of those changes that are happening. It's basically the hours are going to change. The facility now will be open from 8 a.m. until 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and then Fridays and Saturdays will be 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So I think, I think it gives the general public and people the opportunity to get out there in the morning time, where currently we've never had any morning hours within the last few years. On Saturdays, it usually opens at noon. So it'll give some morning time usage as well to the general public, and it'll be free, and the only requirement, we require helmets, and still no bikes are allowed in there. This park's just not big enough for biking.
Yes.
But we will allow skateboards, inline skates, and that nature.
I think that's a great idea. So, I mean, I know our area is real small, but to be able to have no fee to, I think now that would probably entice the individuals who probably would want to go but couldn't go for whatever reason may be. But now it's almost no reason for them not to go. So, and the hours are really good too. Other than that, that's all the comments I have. Thank you.
Mr. Agudelo?
Yeah, I went out to Kildare Park, and I noticed that at the there's a walking bridge. There's a really big drop off on the back end of the bridge that's about, I'd say 6 to 7 inches, that presents a little bit of a hazard. I'm not sure how many people with wheelchairs would be using that park, being as how the trail's kind of treacherous, but it definitely presents a really bad safety hazard there. Besides that, there's not really much else going on in Kildare Park to report. Bryant Park looks great, and Barber Street, I was just thinking about this. There's a big wooden block at the back end of one of the batting cages that presents a little bit of a safety hazard, because if a ball's hit hard enough off that, person throwing the ball who's a little bit closer than the hitter is going to get hit with that in the back of the head. And the fencing kind of provides an issue with baseballs being torn up when they hit the fence, that we might want to consider replacing with just netting, even though that's a little bit harder to upkeep. The netting would provide a little bit of a easier, I guess, just maintenance for the baseballs, because if not, baseball's like $5 a pop. You go through baseballs pretty easily in a cage like that. But besides that, everything else looks good at Barber Street. The school board looks great. I saw that being replaced as it was being replaced, and I think that's a great addition, a great revisement to that school board. And I think that's pretty much all I have.
And if I can just speak on one thing, just a reminder, we are replacing the final baseball scoreboard at Barber Street this coming year. That was budgeted as well, that I failed to mention that in the upcoming projects. But, in speaking of the batting cage, there is, the standard fencing that is currently there. Typically, it is a netting system that, is more beneficial for the cages. So that's something we can look at. It obviously isn't budgeted for this fiscal year, and netting is, does have a price with it. So that's something that I'll be happy to get some pricing on, and then I can present it back to the board with the pricing that I find on that, and we can go forward from there.
I have a question in reference to the batting cage. Is that open to the public too, or you have to go through Little League in order to utilize the batting cage?
So the batting cage is open to the public. If Little League is there actively practicing, they do have the first, right of refusal to utilize the cages during their scheduled practice times. But other than that, it is open to the general public. So it is a public amenity as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't really have anything at Hardy Park. There's a little area that was the garden clubs also. It's kind of messy. I don't know. I'll check it out and see if anything is going on in there.
I think a few years ago, didn't we address that? Actually, the city, we were going to keep it up. It was wasn't it a butterfly or something? It has a little fencing around it.
Yeah, a wood fence.
I haven't been there a long time. Is there flowers in there now, or?
Not the last time I was there.
So I can speak on that just a little bit, because I have gotten some inquiries. I spoke to a lady that is a member of a garden club that does actively assist with that area. They did request us to relocate a bench over in that general vicinity. So on the south side of the fencing, we did put a bench that's more in the shade there. So I do know that there is a group that's actively working that area, and I do see a couple ladies out there. But I can speak with them also and find out exactly what their involvement is and how they want to proceed, if they're continuing to do it, or if they want to do new plantings or something like that. They're out there, pretty frequently.
If you do talk to them, ask them if they're involved with the one on Barber Street at all, or if they know anything about that. I mean, if they want to be involved in doing something with that park, then we should pull them in, but maybe they're just with Hardy, I don't know.
I can do that.
Okay.
I guess that's it. So we need items for the agenda, and our next meeting is going to be October 28th. We have the Halloween costume contest on the 26th. What time does that start, Brian?
At 10.
10?
Yes, ma'am, it starts at 10 a.m.
For the next agenda, I'd like us to kind of look into sidewalks again. We did that a few years ago just because bike trails and walking, and there are a few places in town, I'm thinking particularly on Fleming, coming over to the golf course, around the curve there. The sidewalk just ends. There is no sidewalk. And it comes onto Main Street, I think. Also, updating some sidewalks in other streets, if it's Lake Drive might be one, maybe over on Schumann. I just think we need to kind of look to see what condition some of the sidewalks are in, but I don't know if we're going to be widening any of these roads in the future, and that's why we haven't addressed them, or we just haven't. But because we have people walking and riding bikes, I think that's something we might want to look at in the next year.
Yeah, so I can prepare some information for that. I'll get with our Public Works Department. They kind of handle the roads and the sidewalks within the city. If it's closer to a park, then we have a little bit more, to say about it. But I can get with them and then kind of get their opinion on specifically the areas you addressed. What I'll do is I'll also, communicate with you directly, Ms. White, and in the areas that you have concerns, and then I can get the answers directly from them to present to you all.
Thank you.
At the next meeting.
Excellent. Well, I guess if somebody wants to make a motion to adjourn? Okay. Is that how you do it here? Do you have to make a motion or no?
Yeah, you just make a motion and then second it.
Oh, you do? Mr. Sims made a motion. Somebody want to second it?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Smack that thing.